We want to welcome everyone who is joining us across the nation and around the world. Merry Christmas to all of you, no matter where you're at or who you're with. We want to let you know that Columbine United Church is with you this evening and let you know that God is with you as well. To all of our men and women who are in uniform, who can't be home right now, our thoughts, our prayers are with you. Let's all give them a huge round of applause this evening. The Christmas story from Luke. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered. This was the first registration was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. And all went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and family of David. And he went to be registered with Mary, in whom he was engaged, who was expecting a child. And while they were there, the time came for her to deliver her child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son, and wrapped him in bands of cloth, and laid him in a manger, because there was no place for them in the inn. And in that region there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. And then an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for see, I am bringing you good news of great joy for all the people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. And this will be a sign for you. You will find a child wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger." And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace among those whom he favors." And when the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Surely we should go now to Bethlehem and see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in a manger. And when they saw this, they made known what had been told them about this child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds told them. But Mary treasured all these words and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, as it had been told to them. Now we're going to do a cornucopia of carols. As we are singing these carols, we invite you to come and light candles right up here at the candle table. We would ask that you only light one, because there are a lot of you, and there are not enough candles for everybody, of course, but we invite you to come up until they are all lit. With that, enjoy the cornucopia of carols.
You sounded fantastic. Give yourself a round of applause. That's beautiful. Please be seated. And speaking of round of applause, I want to thank my good friend and colleague, Mitch Sammy, for all of your hard work. Let's thank the band and our singers for giving us their Christmas Eve tonight. Thank you. I want to thank my dear colleagues, Justin and Jane, for all of their hard work. Let's give them a round of applause. And then our good friends back here on the soundboard, I want you to know something. I'm dealing with laryngitis issues. So if at any point you cannot hear me, you need to raise your hands so that not only I know to project, so that our soundboard also knows to project. Let's give all of the volunteers at Columbine United Church a huge round of applause. Hey, you know, all be home for Christmas. It's one of the great themes of Christmas, but also it's our theme tonight, all be home for Christmas. And it's that based upon that wonderful song. Where's Matt at? Is he here? I'm here. There you are, Matt. We have invited Matt to come in and sing a great song for us. I'll be home for Christmas. And you know this song. So Matt's going to sing one stanza of it, and then we're going to join in singing along with him.
It's a long road back, I promise you. I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. Please have snow and mistletoe and presents under the tree. Christmas Eve will find me where the love light beams. I'll be home for Christmas, if only in my dream.
Matthew, Bing Crosby holds nothing over Matt. Very cool. And now let's all sing together. Time. Now you guys know it. Now, I want to make it a big full sound. It's Christmas Eve. You're the 6 o'clock crowd. You've had enough something before you came here, just kind of loosen you up. So let's just kind of get into it, really make this a beautiful song. Let's open it up. Here we go. Thank you. Thank you. Another round of applause. Bless you. Bless you. Good. Kathy, keep the house lights up just for a moment because we're going to do just a little bit of I want to see how far you have come. Bing Crosby, I'll Be Home for Christmas. This was a huge song for him. It pushed him to the top of the charts. It was his 5th gold album. And there's a fun Wikipedia article about all the different people who have recorded I'll Be Home for Christmas. Everybody from like Jackie Gleason to Jimmy Buffett to Dolly Parton to REO Speedwagon. I mean, this song was huge. There's something about this song that kind of touches the hearts of what it means to be an American and Christmas, this desire to go home and to be home. And before I dove into the sermon, I thought I'd just see who has traveled tonight to be home for Christmas. Who has traveled? Let's put our hands up. There's a couple hands. There's a hand. There's a hand. There's a hand. So let's see who's traveled the farthest. How far have you traveled? 1,200 miles from? Indiana. Who could beat Indiana? How far did you travel? Florida, okay. Now it's never thrown down. Who can beat Florida? Oh, we have one in the back. How far have you traveled? Where? Illinois? New York. A little hard of hearing tonight as well. I can't hear, can't talk. What's next? Jimmy Christmas. New York. Can anybody beat New York? It was really funny. After the first service, someone came out and said, well, I did travel from Switzerland. Well, why didn't you say something? So can anybody beat New York? New York is it. A round of applause for New York. You're buying drinks after the show. It's amazing how we all are willing to get in line and travel, and to fight all different kinds of crowds to get home for Christmas Eve. What is it about us that wants to be home for Christmas Eve? For me, I have a great story about going home for Christmas Eve that I wanted to share with you tonight. I was 21 years of age. I was a senior in college, and my wife, then fiance at the time, Phoebe, it was Christmas, and we needed to go to her house to be with her mom and her little sister over Christmas. Her mom was going to have a major back surgery and was going to be hospitalized over Christmas, leaving Phoebe's little sister, who was then 16 at the time, home alone. And if you ever wonder where they got the idea for the movie, you just need to think about Phoebe's little sister, and that's where they got that idea. And so we thought it'd be a really good idea for us to go home. So we left Spokane, Washington. Actually, I have a little map about where we go. I don't want to make you too dizzy here with my little red pointer. There's Spokane, Washington. We cut across the panhandle of Idaho, caught Billings, Montana, and headed straight down to Denver. Denver I-70, we head east, and we got into Kansas, got into Colby, Kansas, western Kansas, and it's there that we hit the blizzard. Any of you travel through western Kansas in the middle of a blizzard? Yeah, several of you know there's not a tree around, right? And there's nothing to stop the snow. And it blows, and it blows, and it blows. And before long, they closed down the freeway right outside of Colby, and all the good hotels in Colby started filling up, and we couldn't find a place to stay. So we went back out to the freeway, and there was the Holiday Hotel, the Dewdrop Inn. And we were all 21 years of age, and this was the very first time I had ever bought my own hotel, especially with a girlfriend. I didn't really know what to do. And so, I went up, and when I signed the register, I said, this is for Mr. and Mrs. Benson. And the hotel clerk, he looked a little askance at me. And there's my 21-year-old beard, by the way. And speaking of you, if you're thinking, hey, he grew a beard, that was in July, by the way. That was in July. But there's my 21-year-old beard. And so this guy, I'll never forget, he kind of looked askance at me because he looked down at my hand and didn't see a wedding ring. He looked at me, and he looked at my fiancée, who looked very young at the time. She looked all of about 16. And I could tell he was wanting to say, you know what, look, we're not that kind of hotel. You need to move on. And I put on my best Joseph face. And I said, come on, man. She's my fiancée. It's snowing hard outside. We just need a place to stay. So he relented, and he gave us the key. I'll never forget walking down through the snow to the room. It was just one of those one-row, one-level hotels, and we opened up the door. I'll never forget it. It smelled like those pine trees that hang from the bottom of a rearview mirror. And it was just pungent with pine to cover the smell of stale cigarette smoke. It was terrible. I'll never forget the mattresses were thin and the radiator was clanking, and of course it stank, but it was pounding snow outside. So we came in and pulled the curtains, we locked the door, put the chain in the door, and got in our PJs and got into bed and got down to sleep. Because if we had been driving for about 12, 15 hours, exhausted, it's then that we heard the fight. You know, these hotel rooms are paper thin, those walls. And the room right behind us, they were shouting. And then there was throwing of furniture. And then all of a sudden, bam! Bam, 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 bam! Gunshots. We dove under the bed. I'll never forget reaching out and grabbing the phone and calling the front desk. There's a shooting, there's a shooting. Call the police. This is before 911. So they patched me through. There's a shooting at the hotel on the freeway. There was no other noises coming from the room next door. We had no idea what had happened. I remember going and looking through the curtains at the window and saw the red and blue lights and the sirens blaring coming down the room, coming down the road. Why? Why do we do this? Why do we put ourselves at risk to come home for Christmas? Why do we spend so much money? Why do we fight the lines and the hassles? Why do we travel for miles? Why do we do this to come home for Christmas? What is it about this pull of coming home for Christmas? You know, I think it has something to do with this picture scene, this idyllic scene of what, Christmas is supposed to be like. And we think if we can just come home just one more time, we can recapture that feeling of what we had when we were children, of what we wanted to have when we were children. And so we're willing to make the trek. And I think part of us, what pushes us, is the same thing that kind of pushed Mary and Joseph. There was a sense of responsibility that Mary and Joseph had. You know the story. Justin read the story. There was a census that was going on by Emperor Augustus, and all the world had to be counted. All the world had to be enrolled. So Mary and Joseph took a 2-week trek from Nazareth down to Bethlehem. And they had to be counted so that somebody could look at them. Somebody could look at them and said, "You're Mary and Joseph. Obviously, you're pregnant. You're counted." And that also means there's going to be a tax, and you have to pay a tax. And when I sit back and think about what it is that drives us to come home for Christmas, I think about those 2 words. We come home to be counted, and we come home to pay a tax. We come home to be counted. We come home to pay a tax. And we come home to be counted. Now, not exactly in the way that Mary and Joseph had to be counted, but it's very similar. Someone had to lay eyes on Mary and Joseph and said, "Okay, you're here." I think sometimes it's the same with us. We need to come home. We need to have someone look at us and say, "Yes, you're here. Yes, you're among us. Yes, you're significant. Yes, we love you and we care about you." I think that's the pull about coming home. Because, sometimes when we're out in the world, nobody cares about us. Nobody counts us as being significant or important in our lives. But there's something about going home for Christmas, especially Christmas, where somebody can lay eyes on us and say, "You're a significant part of my life. I know you. I want you to be a part of my family." I think this is what Jesus, or what God is trying to say through the Christmas message. We say that Jesus is God, is Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God is with us. And for me, I think that's cool that God is with us. It's something that Justin and I and Jane, the 3 of us, say almost in every single Sunday. We say in some way, shape, or form that God is not a distant God, that God is personally, God is with us. But I think when it comes to Christmas, it's even more. It's not even more that God is with us, it's that God knows us. I was thinking of this passage from Psalms. The psalmist writes, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar." It's that God knows our longings. God knows our desires. God knows our hurts and our pains and our sorrows. And so when God says, "I count you as being a part of my family, I know you," God is saying, you are significant to me. It's a sacred thing. So when we come home for Christmas and we look at each other, we grab each other, we give each other hands, we exchange presents with one another. You know what we're really saying? You are important to me. You are significant to me. And I love you. And I care about you. And we make this big trek on Christmas. We get on planes and we cross the country. So literally we can do one thing. Look into the eyes of somebody and say, "I love you. I care about you. You are important to me." We come to Christmas to be counted. I think we also come to Christmas, it's an important line I forgot to say here, that, you don't have to live on a street to be homeless at Christmas time. There's a lot of people who can't go home. There's a lot of lonely people in the world. And that's why part of what my challenge is today is to not only count the people who are in your immediate blood family, but to look out for other people and to count them as well. The people in your office, the people maybe in the cubicle next to you. Maybe your boss is angry because he's such a lonely individual. Maybe there's somebody on your block. Maybe you're here tonight and you're feeling lonely because there's nobody to count you. Then you need to hear me say, you need to hear us say that no, God counts you. We count you. You are important to us. We go home to be counted. We go home to pay a tax. Mary and Joseph had to go home to be counted so that they could be taxed. And I think that there's a tax that we have to pay to be counted. I call it the family tax. And you know what the tax is? It's compassion. Being a part of a family is a hard thing. I know it. I'm a part of my own family. I have kids. I have a wife. I know what a challenge it is to raise kids. I know what a challenge it is to have adult siblings. I know the challenge it is to take care of aging parents. And you know what? Being a part of a family means you got to pay the cost. To be a part of a community, you have to be willing to go the distance with your family. You have to be willing to go the distance with your siblings. You have to be willing to go the distance with your friends. God just doesn't discard us when we make a mistake. God just doesn't let us go with second chances or third chances. No, God keeps on saying, let's do it again. Let's go again. Let's try it again. This doesn't mean that we have poor boundaries with people. Sometimes I think the most loving thing we can do is to set good and healthy boundaries. But that's also paying the tax of loving somebody enough that you're going to set the healthy boundaries. So for me, Christmas is more than just a fuzzy love. I love you, but I love you enough to hang in there with you because I know you and I'm not going to let you go. I think that's what God requires of us when it comes to our families, whether it's our blood families or our friend families. It says, I'm not going to let you go. I practiced this enough that I thought I'd be able to do this without crying. So this is my first Christmas without my dad. If you're here on Easter, I had just come back from my dad's memorial service. And those of you who have lost a loved one, lost a parent, lost a spouse, you know that That first year is a hard year. A lot of firsts. A first birthday, a first anniversary, a first Halloween, a first Thanksgiving, and now a first Christmas. This is my first Christmas. My dad was a huge part of my life. And you know, have you ever thought about if you could go back and relive one Christmas, what would you relive? I know exactly which Christmas I would relive. My last Christmas with my dad. I was 20 years old. I was 20 years old. That was the year before I became a minister. As ministers, we work on Christmas Eve. Do you know I've not had a single Christmas Eve with my own kids, with my own family, their entire growing up. And you know, when you're 20 years old, if you had asked that 20-year-old Steve, is this going to be your last Christmas with your dad? I would have said, no, heck no, I'm 20 years old. But if I had known that that was going to be the last Christmas, when I had handed him my present, I might have stopped and looked in his eyes just a little bit clearer. I would have set the present aside and I would have hugged him. And I would have said, Dad, this present in no way speaks how much I love and care about you. You know, that's why for me tomorrow, my desire for you is to count each other. Just don't let it be a holiday. Count each other. Before you exchange a present, set the present down and take the person so that they're uncomfortable because you have them both by the hands. And he said, you know what the preacher said last night? Well, you know what? It's true. I do love you and I care about you. Because who knows? This might be the last Christmas. Don't let it go by without counting each other. We had to stay in our hotel room. On the next morning, the sheriff came by and started knocking on the doors and went all the way down and came to ours. He said, hey, you kids okay? He said, we just want to make sure that everybody is accounted for. We just want to make sure everybody is accounted for. You know, I think that that's God's desire on Christmas, is that everybody is accounted for. And you, my friends, are counted as the beloved children of God. Amen.